else that we all need to navigate is our place of business. Either as a tenant or landlord, our real estate issues are a big part of what we're dealing with right now, especially in states where most businesses effectively shut down. Mark Carlson from the Carlson Law Group has been my go-to expert for more years than I can count on my fingers and toes. Mark is a real estate attorney with a focus in professional liability and residential sales and leasing. He has 9 attorneys with offices in both Northern and Southern California, where 75% of his practice is litigation, with the remainder reviewing and drafting purchase sale agreements and leases. He has been selected 5 times to be in the super lawyers list, which accepts less than 5% of practicing attorneys through nomination, investigation, and peer review process. He is also an advocate with the American Board of Trial Advocates, which is an invitation-only group of trial attorneys who have tried a minimum of 20 civil jury trials to verdict. Mark, I'm going to bring you up. Talk to me a little bit about the performance of a lease or purchase agreement and what you can do to possibly avoid it due to COVID-19.
Yeah, that's been a really hot topic lately. It's people that are in the middle of transactions, or if they're having problems with potentially performing on a lease. And so the question is, well, how do I get out of this? How do I, if I've got X number of years left on my lease, but I've got to shut my doors, what are my options? And the answer to that is it of course starts at the contract that's at issue, whether it's the lease or whether it's a sales contract, to see what kind of terms that are there that potentially could excuse performance. We're finding that on the residential side, it's not listed at all. I mean, the impossibility of performance isn't a term that's been that previously existed in existing residential sales contracts and leases. Now, on the commercial side, there's a bit more language that would help navigate that. But the concept really comes down to what everybody knows is an act of God or force majeure, and what that concept requires is that your ability to perform is made impossible by a particular event. I would suspect that nobody is going to try to make the argument that COVID-19 is not an act of God. It doesn't qualify. So the analysis really goes to, well, does it truly make performance impossible, or does it just make it impractical or more difficult? If it's impractical or more difficult, the concept wouldn't apply. And even if you don't have language like that in your contract, most states, I know California has a civil code section that has that concept that excuses performance even absent a contractual provision if performance is rendered impossible by an act of God.
Right on. Well, now we're dealing with some sirens, but while we're doing that, maybe you can let me mute again after I ask you about rent abatement. Can tenants seek rent abatement? And then the follow-up to that would be, if they can, what kind of considerations do landlords have?
Yeah, so that goes a little bit to what the concept or the dilemma that Tom mentioned, where you've got government officials saying, landlords really ought to abate rent, and then people say, oh, I understand I've got legally mandated rent abatement, which just isn't the case. And so that really becomes more of a business decision than a legal question. It's do I kick the rent down the road so that I don't have to worry about refilling the space? If you're a landlord, if you are a landlord that you've got a single tenant triple net lease, like with a fast food chain or some other sort of similar company, the value of those properties is tied in the income stream of the lease. So do you, as a business decision, decide, okay, I'm going to let it slide for a little bit, try to get payment later in the year, or do I play hardball and force the business to shut down, and now I'm left with an empty space that's where the value is substantially impacted. And I've got a client actually that I'm helping negotiate on 3 different type of single tenant triple nets that he's got, and what is happening, or at least the request that's being made is, okay, let me have 3 months with no payment, but I'll make that payment up to you by the end of the year. So things are sort of working themselves out, it seems.
Right on. Well, hey, so Last thing I'm curious about is, the buy sell market. What are we seeing now in terms of what the coronavirus is doing on the impact of sales transactions? And are there things that, business owners that may be engaged in one on an exit or an entry to that market should be thinking about?
Well, that's an interesting question, and I think it's going to change. That's sort of a day by day analysis. I'm on a number of panels, and so I've been doing these kind of meetings all week with speaking with professionals in all different slices of real estate. And what I'm hearing is that residential sales, what they call sides, they have been unaffected. March was as good as February. Actually, it was a little bit stronger. That probably is taking into account that this is a time of year that most people traditionally are looking to buy houses because kids are getting out of school. They're trying not to move in the middle of the school year. But even on the commercial side, commercial brokers are telling me that everything that was in the pipeline closed. There was no impact. Um, there's been some hiccups with some lenders that are not lending currently, although, we'll see not so much on the commercial side as we've already heard, but on the residential side. So we'll just have to see how that goes. So I think so long as the deals are possible, with lending and lenders working around getting appraisers out there and home inspectors and other due diligence professionals on the commercial side. So long as they're working, I think that it seems that things are going to still progress, and we're not going to have a huge impact on the activity within the markets.
Well, terrific. Um, well, thanks, Mark. I expected nothing less than some great information, so thank you.